Carly Rae Jepsen is in high demand. She has a new hit album, Emotion, and tonight she's performing at We Day in Toronto, celebrating young people who make a difference in their communities. I met with her yesterday to talk about her success, We Day, and of course, her music. Well, Carly, congratulations on the album. It's been out for a while. It's done so well. I know you've been so busy, and now you're doing We Day in Toronto. I know you've been involved in We before, but with all of the demands on your time, what was it when you said, absolutely, you're going to do this?
I love We Day. I love what it stands for. I can remember my little sister Katie actually went to one of these events a couple years back, and she came home like a changed woman. Really? She was just thinking kind of outside of, I don't know, her day-to-day sort of worries and more about how she could change the world and her part in that. And I think having a celebration and sort of a conference to inspire kids to be thinking like that is just something I wanted to be a part of, for sure.
And for your album, so the amount of work that went into that, so you wrote 250 odd songs?
Yeah, people are always quite shocked when they hear that.
Well, it is like, how long did it take you to write those?
Well, it wasn't so much that I knew that I was making a 200-song album. I just knew that I didn't know what the answer was. I allowed myself to experiment and write without judgment. I wrote kind of indie or folk songs. I wrote really straight down the middle pop songs, and then I fell in line with the sort of 80s sound mixed with sort of indie production, and I knew I had hit something that I was excited about. But that took me a while. It took me a couple years. It took me 150 songs to finally get to that first one that triggered that spark for me.
So you've got a whole bag full of songs that are not on this album.
Yeah, do you want some of them? Like, yeah, no, I do. I have a ton.
But you narrowed it down to 17.
Yeah, and that was a very hard process. I was very attached to many of them. I can remember calling my label and being like, would it be weird if I'd been gone for 3 years and I came back with like a 40-song deluxe album? And they're like, yeah, that's really weird. So I had to narrow it down to a top 17, and that came from a lot of help of friends and family passionately fighting out their favorites and just kind of sitting back and listening to kind of people's votes.
How do you push off the pressure of the unbelievable success of Call Me Maybe? And I know that was a few years, but you know, for you to be able to kind of settle in and look toward new projects, to not feel that pressure.
Well, I think people are always going to know you for something if you're ever kind of in the public eye. I remember doing Cinderella with Fran Drescher, and everyone would call her the nanny. And I think you can get really upset about that, or you can be really grateful for the fact that that's their calling card that kind of got your stamp and got you kind of moving towards something. But I don't think you can define your own sort of creative repertoire off of that. You kind of have to look at yourself and know that you've got more. And I had people in my life saying, rather than looking at this as something where you have to prove yourself, that you're not just a one-hit wonder and that you've got other music, know that you're not. We know that you're not. Go out there and don't try to recreate, but make something new. And anytime I get feeling sort of bogged down or frozen by those pressures, I would steer my thinking back towards the idea of looking at this as an opportunity and a stage to show the other type of music that I love to create.
I mean, you're obviously very grounded and you're very close with your family. Let me ask you about that versus the Hollywood side versus LA hallucinations and the lyrics in that song, the darker side of fame.
Yeah, well, I have to give credit to Zachary Gray, actually, who was a band from the Zolas, for having the spark of that idea for LA hallucinations. And it's interesting, I can remember moving from Canada into Los Angeles, and it timed out weirdly for me right at the height of Call Me Maybe. So it was almost like entering into a city where all of a sudden you're famous. And I had never really been famous before, and I had never really been in LA before in this way. And it was terrifying and really exciting, all mixed together. I can remember really rebelling being recognized at first. And going to Starbucks, actually, and having the girl ask me my name, and she was looking at me funny, so I told her my name was like Lisa or something. And I can remember feeling really perturbed that she put Carly on the cup anyways, and, and sort of feeling like there's nowhere to go. But once you realize that fame doesn't have to be the same as it is for everybody, as it is for you, and you can kind of say yes and no to the parties you want to go to, or how much of your life you do want to share, it can be a really wonderful thing and a way to spread music, and that's how I'm trying to look at it.
And I know you were saying with traveling and stuff, you have to look after your voice.
Yeah.
So how do you do that?
You do have to be careful. I was actually in Spain recently, and there was a torrential kind of downpour in the middle of my performance, and I haven't been able to sound like a normal woman since, but I figure we'll just have a little rasp at the performance, and it'll be okay.
I think you sound terrific. I think We Day is going to be great. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.